Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max.
Welcome, everyone. We are the Geek Patrol, and our microphones don't have a stun setting. I'm Joe Thordarson, here with my friends Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass, and sitting in for the absent Brandon Olmstead. And I'm not even making excuses for him, Allan. He just said, I'm not coming in today. You and I are doing our duty. He's milking the whole 4th of July weekend. 4th of July was Friday. Today's Sunday. Sorry, Brandon, I can't back you up on this. But anyway, sitting in, never fear. We have guests in the studio.
Well, we have reason to fear.
Yeah. On mic, we got Lin Workman. Lin, good to have you in here. You're long overdue for a visit.
Well, obviously somebody canceled on you at the last minute.
Yeah.
Right.
And Scott J. Carroll. And you guys brought your wives, which is great too. And actually, Nikki, I have a question for you later. So, but we have these guys in. And Scott, I don't remember what you have on tap for us today.
Whatever I want.
Okay, he's gonna weigh in. Lin has to get to a comic book signing, so he may or may not be here the whole episode. But I do want to say I have an important announcement to make, which is we can finally announce that we did lock down our new venue. For those who haven't heard Geek Tank in a while, we had to change venues for the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention because, well, the hotel was shutting down. And I'm very excited to announce that we actually are coming back to the Memphis Hilton, which is my all-time favorite venue. Lin, you've been there, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I met Jess Harnell there.
Yeah, beautiful
Fred
hotel.
Brewer.
And they've remodeled. It's really nice. And so, but what we're doing is we had to compromise on the date. So we are changing dates. It's no longer going to be November 15th and 16th. We're actually we're taking 3 days of programming and cramming it into one full marathon day. It's going to be November 1st. So the Day of the Dead, All Saints Day. I don't know, maybe we'll have a Day of the Dead celebration. There'll probably be a little residual Halloween celebrations going on there, but it's going to be at the Memphis Hilton. If you want to learn more, go to the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention Facebook page, and also go to our website, memphiscfc.com. So, and we'll be making more announcements in the weeks ahead. So, but Lin, we're gonna ask you about a few things first because you might have to take off. You said so.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a road trip up to Jackson to see Mike Norton.
Yeah. So what's he doing?
Well, Mike, actually, have you heard of Revival, the TV show on Sci-Fi?
Mm-hmm. You probably have, right,
It's
Scott?
one of his. Well, yeah.
Okay.
He and Tim Seeley created the comic, and it's been on Thursday nights. So he's got that going on. He's just had the first issue of Crypto, the Superdog comic, come out for DC Comics. So that's probably what he'll be signing. But yeah, Mike actually is from Jackson, Tennessee, and he went to school here at the U of M back when it was still Memphis State. I think he was one of those folks that started at Memphis State and graduated from U of M.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, but he and Greg Cravens are both from Jackson, Tennessee.
You guys are from the old guard. Is that right? The old guard? Because like you and Greg Cravens and a lot of these guys, you were there.
We've been here quite a long time now.
Yeah. But Lin, you're an artist here. Are you a cartoonist or are you? Because I've seen you do what do they call it? Photorealism. Your art varies.
Well, my wife calls it schizophrenic, but yes.
Yeah.
I do everything from cartoony type stuff to photorealism, like my monster pieces, and a lot of the universal horror monster type pieces. And then I also do sculpture and a lot of other things. Sketch cards. I've done tons of sketch cards for like Tops, Star Wars, stuff like that. Star Wars was the first ones I ever did. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, and Allan may be correct because I'm not as plugged in with this stuff as you are, but I've lived in a lot of places. And, for example, we have the Mid-South Cartoonists Association.
Correct.
We have a network of people working together. Are people this interconnected when it comes to cartooning and the arts as they are here in Memphis, like in other cities? 'Cause I feel like this is sort of unique.
It varies from city to city. Different areas of different art networks exist, and it depends on kind of what's popular and what's not in certain areas. But Memphis has always had a I'm going to say a light love affair with getting art, because we've had so many phenomenal artists in the area, from the area, or even moved back to the area.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. We've had, well, when Mike Ramirez was the commercial appeal artist here, he won his first Pulitzer. Not a Pulitzer, his first Pulitzer, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Norton, like I said, he's gone on to work for just about every comic company in the industry, including DC and Marvel. He was exclusive for them. Greg Cravens, he's a syndicated cartoonist, does the Buckets and does web comics. Years ago, I used to have a T-shirt shop here in town. I don't know if you guys remember Animated Jacks or the Wild Hair.
Oh, the wild hair. Oh, yeah.
Did you do that with Mitch Faust?
Yeah. That was back in the early 90s. But when we did that, we were doing a lot of stuff for some local radio stations around town. And one of them asked us if we wanted to be part of their website. And so we did the funny pages on their website, which was some of the first web comics ever done. That was like, early mid-90s.
Yeah. And I just think that it's cool that you have a support network, because being an artist, I'll tell you this, man, running the convention and everything, I mean, one of the nice things is I meet artists of every medium and from all over the country. And it takes courage, man. You're putting your soul out there. Yeah. You're making art, and you're hoping for one thing, people like it. You're also kind of maybe hoping you could make a living at it. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's not easy, and it plays on your psyche too. I mean, it could really affect your set of mind, your peace of mind there. Yeah. Yeah. So you need that sort of support network. So the Mid-South Cartoonists, you guys get together regularly?
Yeah, once a month. The first Tuesday of every month, we meet at Garibaldi's Pizza over at the U of M, off Walker near Tiger Bookstore. It's a free event. We just ask, hey, bring a couple bucks to order off the menu, and if you're not old enough to drive yourself there, have a parent drive you.
If you're at all interested in the arts, it's a free resource that you definitely want to tap into this. It's cool. You guys have monthly meetings. You brought in some of your zines, right?
You brought some zines and
some cool swag.
Stickers.
So we're going to continue to visit when we come back here on Geek Tank Radio.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. Freddy Krueger has nightmares about them. The Geek Patrol is back.
And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. And notably absent is Brandon Olmstead. I don't know if he's sleeping in. I don't know what he's doing. He decided he needed a 3-day weekend. Allan, we're here doing we were here yesterday for Tool Talk Radio.
We were indeed. We were. But,
we don't.
Hey, he needs a little time off. So let him go chase the dog around the yard a little bit.
So we have a studio full of guests to fill the void here. So we've got our buddy Lin Workman, his wife Nikki, and then on mic over there we got Scott J. Carroll.
Or does this deepen the void?
Huh?
Does this deepen the void?
Yeah, I don't know, man. So hey, I do want to ask Nikki something though, Nikki, because I listened to the Drawing Funny podcast that you do. Lynn, I like it, man. I think I've listened to every episode, and
so
it's
$20 I just gave you worked out pretty
yeah.
good.
So, but Drawing Funny. Wait, what's the tagline below that? It's Drawing Funny, sketchy. What? It's basically.
It's basically as I talked to. God, it's funny because any other time I could
put
do
him
this
on the spot
off my head. But we talk tunes with sketchy characters in the comics industry and fandom. Thank you.
What I like, though, is you give the nuts and bolts behind the scene. There was one episode you did I really appreciated, talking about the anxiety that comes with being an artist. Yours isn't, you kind of give the street level view of, and you talk about how to make money at it and everything. But, Nikki, what I found fascinating is because now you all, how long have you been married?
Married?
Yeah.
Married,
or how long have you known each other?
Going on 13 years?
No, 14 years.
14?
Yeah.
Yeah, 14.
Okay, well, Nikki, what's interesting with your relationship that I find is you're a fan. Like, okay, if I were to call my wife and
Not
say...
Not of mine, but she's a fan.
I could say, hey, I'm at a convention, and they have this statue of such and such, of a Superman fighting, the whatever, and I want to buy that. Her question would be, well, we have all these other things to do, whatever. Nikki, yours is probably along the lines of, well, what era, who's the artist, and how much, right?
No, right now it's where do you think we're going to put this?
Okay, because you're a fellow geek, right? Now,
I
how
am.
does that work? I don't know a lot of couples that are. Do you match Lynn's geekdom level, or I mean,
In different ways. We have different areas of interest. Comics overlaps, but I'm a video gamer. He is not a gamer at all. I'm into different types of comics or different characters than he is, so I would say complementary.
and all your pets are named after like don't you
Comic
have-
book characters.
right?
So, our eldest cat that we just lost a month ago, Jarrell, she was named for a Star Wars character created by Memphian John Jackson Miller when he was doing Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Right.
Our second cat, Harley Quinn, I think you kind of see where the...
Are you guys DC heavy in your family?
We
Or-
tend to be. I mean, Bat Boy over here kind of leans into that. And then we have the Luthers, which are our two youngest cats, the two that we have left at home. Lex, who was actually adopted in Metropolis, Illinois, he and his siblings were found abandoned at the Superman celebration. So he came home.
Wow.
He came home with Lynn from Metropolis, so he's Lex. And a couple years ago, Lynn was asked to do a mural at the Tunica Humane Society, and he came home with a one-eyed kitty that was named Lena, or we named her Lena. So we're very...
Now, if it was a he, would you have named it like who's Deathstroke? What is his name? You know, that would have been a whatever. Anyway,
Yeah, Wade Wilson.
one eye. But anyway, okay.
Slade
Wilson.
Slade
That's
Wilson.
right.
Wade Wilson's
So,
Deadpool.
Deadpool. Yeah.
all right. Well, I got to imagine your dinner time conversations are different. They're very
Sometimes
unique. So
what gets me about Nikki is she can out-school me on comics or sports at any time. So we'll be watching like a soccer game or match or a football game or something like that, and she'll throw out some kind of trivia about the player or whoever is on the field, and like a half a minute later, the commentators do the same trivia on it. So it's kind of fun.
So there's no.
I'm excellent at Trivial Pursuit. I'm a fount of useless information.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. And you drop in on the Drawing Funny podcast too. I thought
From time to time.
Okay. Well, it's good to have you in here, and but definitely check out the Drawing Funny. I listen on Spotify. What other platforms can you hear it on?
It's on Apple and pretty much any other podcasting platform, or you can just go to drawingfunny.com and click on the link.
Okay, cool. Hey, but Scott, off the air, so we got Scott J. Carroll over there. Who's Scott? I don't want to put a label on you, but you're a performer,
Eclectic.
Performer. But
That's
you
probably the best word for it.
you were talking about something off the air that I thought was really worthy of a conversation, man.
Well, yeah. Well, Linda had mentioned that there was a group where the artists are supporting each other, and I've recently gotten back into voice acting, and where I'm doing it, there's this site where you can go and see all the projects and submit, and you can see all of the other actors who are submitting for the same roles or the same projects. And a group of us all kind of noticed that we're all submitting for the same bunch of projects. And instead of it being competitive and us going, hey, I didn't like your read or that was bad, we're messaging each other out of the blue going, hey, I really liked your read on this one. Can we chat about this? Because I've got a read for it too. And we're all supporting each other and kind of bumping each other up going, hey, man, this read was great, but try it this way. And we'll get on voice chats and we'll send messages. And this kind of support it feels counterintuitive because it's a very competitive area. But I think the attitude of we're all in this together and we all can learn from each other and we all can support each other is helping us just give better performances. Right. When we're competing, it's just dragging each other down. But when we're together, we're getting the best out of each other.
Right, and like with the cartoonist group, a lot of times if I can't do a job and I know somebody else can, or like if they need a caricature artist or something, which is I can do caricatures, I don't like to do them in person,
Right.
But so we'll switch off, recommend somebody else. And the Jack Cassidy, who started the cartoonist group back in 1987, he's started at least 2 or 3 others. Every time he moves, he starts another group.
It's cool. I mean, and that's my experience just with every artist I've met, more or less. I'm sure somewhere in Hollywood it's cutthroat and whatever.
I've seen some jealousy around town, but I see more positivity.
All right. Well, we're going to keep the positivity going when we come back here on Geek Tank Radio.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. The Geek Patrol is back.
And it's not out of the question that you might have a very minor case of serious brain damage.
And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass, and sitting in for the absent and lazy Brandon Olmsted. No, I don't know. I'm just a little miffed that he didn't show up today, Allan. But
slacker. Look at everything we've added.
Okay, well, yeah, that's
there
true.
You go.
We filled the void nicely.
The cup is not half empty.
Right.
The cup is overflowing with talent today.
Yep. So we got our buddy Lin Workman and Scott J. Carroll, who we're talking about, and Nicki Workman. And but anyway, we're talking about we were talking about the brotherhood, but we were talking about what might sound counterintuitive. A lot of artists just working together and cooperating and building each other up, which maybe people don't appreciate what a big deal that is.
Well, let me fire the first shot across the bow, and I go, all right, look at it this way. You can't produce enough writing, art, or whatever to satisfy even one customer, much less the fact that there are tens of thousands of people out there.
Yeah.
And especially when you get into the comic industry, how many T-shirts are out there?
Yeah.
And, and as well, you have a convention, so as I walk by and I see somebody wearing a geeky T-shirt, and I'm like, have I seen you at a convention? I'm looking at him, giving kind of the eye, have I seen you at something where you could be among your people?
Yeah.
So the biggest thing for anybody that's being creative is forget the idea that Bob over there is your competition. Bob is not. Your competition is not producing work.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm going to look at Lin and go, pick that ball up and run with it, because...
Yeah, I get a lot of people wanting me to do, like, commission work, and I quit doing commission work because I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And, at the time, I had a day job, and it's like if I was going to draw stuff I wanted to draw, and if somebody wanted to buy it, great. I don't like the stress. We were talking about mental health earlier about being an artist.
Yeah.
That's one of the things is the stress of creating.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that really resonated. My daughter is an artist. She's also a filmmaker, and she is really wrestling with doing things on commission, because if art is totally subjective, and it's like she may create a really nice piece, but it's all about what the person hired you to do. And so she's really starting to gravitate more towards, I'm going to make my own work. You like it or you don't like it, but it's mine. And the stress of that really came through in that one episode you talked about. So, yeah.
Now, let me point out what it's like a little bit to put yourself out at a desk at an event. So you are sitting there with your painting, novel, spices, whatever. Doesn't matter. Whether it was a cup of coffee or it is a 4x8 color grandiose work for thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any difference. You made it, you grew it, you whatever. And there's nothing like having somebody walk by and pick up a year of your life, look at it, look at you and go, oh, did you do this?
Yeah.
And of course you go, yes, I did. And they put it down and go, okay, and walk away.
I got one for you. Nikki,
talk about ripping your soul out. Yeah.
Nikki witnessed this. We were at a con in Arizona, and I had this lady come up and ask me if I would do a sketch. And I was like, well, I don't do a lot of sketches. She said, well, it's for my grandson, and he's got a sketchbook. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Because I'll draw for free for kids. It shows, and when I was doing the Superman celebration, I learned how to do like a quick, minute or less drawing of Superman. Like you could just, crank them out for kids and folks like that. And I was like, yeah, sure, give me that. So I did it, and I even I went in and colored it and all that and handed it back to her. And she looked down at it and then looked back at me with like this disdain, and then looked back down at it, closed the book, and walked off like I had, handed her a pile of poo. And she did. She just kept giving me the evil eye as she walked off, and Nikki was like, what the heck was that about? And I go, I don't know. So, yeah, you never know.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but
Oh, that wasn't the story?
Because
Yeah, there's more.
you really triggered me. But go ahead, Scott.
Well, we're talking about, our work versus how other people see it. And one of the other things I do is I do script doctor work, which so many scripts suffer from what I call people don't talk like that syndrome. Somebody writes the script and they don't read it out loud, and it doesn't quite make sense. I recently got hired on a project, and I got this absolutely wonderful script that just needed a little bit of tightening, a little bit of some dialogue fixes, a couple things moved around. And normally when you present the corrections, the adjustments, sometimes people are very, very reluctant because it's their baby, it's their project. They spent a year on it. And luckily, this most recent one that I've done, the guy's been so receptive. And it is unlike any other one I've done before, because every single time I'm already ready to go, here's why this line needs to go like this, because the character has to justify this action. And he's just like, no, I trust you. And I'm like, that level of trust is insane.
Yeah.
And kind of refreshing.
Well, there's times when I've had, commission work where there's like, every time you turn around, they want to do another change. And sometimes they make changes just to make changes, especially if you're dealing with art directors. They like to have like their fingers in it. But expect that if you're going to do commission work. Expect people are going to put their opinion in because they're paying you to draw this. So they're going to tell you what they want, hopefully. But also, Nicki's always saying how if you're going to be an artist, also learn how to be a businessman.
Bingo. Yeah. Otherwise, you're not going to be. I mean, you have to make money at it, and you have to decide what your time is worth.
If you are an artist or a creator, let me say creator, if you create anything that you are selling for money, you are running a sole proprietorship. You have to understand taxes. You have to understand marketing. You have to understand copyright law and intellectual property, both for you and against you. You have to either have some of this basic knowledge in place or have someone in your life that can help you along those paths, because you are running a business. The business is you.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's all these tools, too, that even 30 years ago we didn't have. But also, I know a lot of artists, Lynn, I'm not looking at you in this, but they have certain temperamental personalities, and they may not be, I don't know, they may not be cut out to be the outgoing showman and stuff. And but you have to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, man. I had to learn it.
Yep.
I was not an outgoing person.
Well, we're going to continue talking about the nuts and bolts of creating art when we come back here on Geek Tank Radio.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. The Geek Patrol is back.
They are still coming through. This is impossible.
And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass, and sitting in for the vacationing Brandon Olmsted is our buddies Lin Workman. He's here with his wife, Nicki Workman. And we've got Scott J. Carroll, and off mic, his wife, Alexis, is, I suppose, the professional observer here, and she's keeping everybody in line. But anyway, off mic. But you guys, I was thinking of something. Before the break, we've been talking about what goes into making art. And it's interesting, as I look around the table, all of us have been in the same situation, but for different reasons. Okay, Allan, you're an author. You've sat at booths. You've been on panels. You've been a guest at conventions for your writing. Scott, you wear a lot of hats, but you're a voice actor. You perform. You've been at booths.
Comedian, improv guy, yeah.
Yeah. Lynn, you are an artist. You are, you were selling your art. You were doing commissions at one point. You learned better. Okay, and
I'm feeling much better now. Yeah.
And I'm a woodworker, and the similar thing I have is I used to make things. I made these Harry Potter wands, and I made walking sticks, and I would go to arts and craft shows, and I would also set up at conventions. So all of us know the experience of having thousands of people walking in front of you and being in a booth and trying to get people interested in what you do. For one thing, I don't know about you, but oftentimes I felt like I was a zoo animal or something. You know what I mean?
That was more like when I was airbrushing at the mall, especially at the Mall of Memphis when you're behind the glass. You look like an exhibit. Yeah.
You feel weird, and then, but you're hoping people will come up and talk to you, but then you're also hoping the right people will come up and talk to you. You don't want somebody to come up and talk for 4 hours and block other
those are called booth barnacles. Yeah.
But but to me there is for one thing, you learn the spiel of what to say when somebody comes up, like, because you got to give your elevator pitch. But also,
good, Joe. Most artists don't know what an elevator pitch is.
Right.
So
you shouldn't be looking at your phone when people are walking by. I personally feel, I want to get your opinion on this. I personally feel when you're at an event, especially like a convention, I think you have about a 3 to 4 second window of opportunity to make that person come to your booth or walk past and not give you the time of day. What do you guys think? Like, I guess I'm wondering about your guys' experience with that.
I learned really quickly to stand up at my booth when I can. People are more likely to talk to you when they're eye level. If they're having to look down, or if I was drawing, they didn't want to come over and interrupt me. And so
that's a good point.
My partner Dave Beatty, back when we were doing our comic Bushy Tales, I got to where he had one of what I call resting bouncer face. And he's about 6'2", 6'3", and close to 300 pounds at the time. So a little bit intimidating. So we got to where I was just like, Dave, why don't you sit and draw? I'm going to stand and
you
talk.
Go hide. Yeah.
Because he quick at drawing, and people, if I was talking to, they felt more comfortable walking over to talk to me. And I'd see people walk by, and like you were talking about, geeky T-shirts or costumes or something like that. I go, hey, nice T-shirt, or hey, and I'd wave, and great costume. And they would say, Dave would go like, do you know them? I go, no, it's just a cool shirt. Or I think we met them at the last show we went to. So yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to throw in the words, an act of will.
Talk to me.
An act of will. Everybody that gets into any form of art, I will tell you now, it is, it's not creative. It's not fun. It's driven. If you are going to be, if you're going to make something, and again, I don't care. It could be you could be crafting rubber duckies. You could be drawing, you could be cutting roses out of soap. Doesn't matter. It is an act of will. You have to sit down and get this done. And a lot of people don't understand that about the arts. Oh, well, I'll get to it when I feel like it. No, it doesn't matter if you feel like it or not. You chose this as a profession. So now, just like everybody else that's got to get up and go to work, guess what, Buckwheat? You got to get up and go to work. And the problem is if you have an employee issue,
you're the manager. Take it up with management. But you have to decide. It is okay to have a hobby.
Hobbies are wonderful.
I'm a photographer. That is my hobby. That is what I do to de-stress from a very stressful job as a product manager. I don't attempt to sell my photography. It is just for me. And if that's what you want to do, that's fantastic. But once you make the decision to sell the thing that you do for fun, it is not for fun anymore. It is a business. So you have to make that determination on what this means to you.
Yeah.
And it's okay for it to be either one, but you have to make that call.
Yeah.
When you end up doing this and you're at a table at a convention, you are fighting two different psychological aspects from the idea of the convention goer. The first thing is you're behind a table, and people have been trained for decades now. A table is a counter. Mm-hmm. And when you go into a place and there's a counter, you've got that separation, and there's an immediate reflex of us against them. It's, oh, you're behind a counter, you're going to try to sell me something, right, and I'm on the defensive. Mm-hmm. And that is a natural aspect of human nature. And then the second side of it is exactly what you were talking about, Lynn, about you have to be affable, you have to be approachable, you have to be
wear deodorant,
disarming.
Shower. Yeah.
You have to be friendly and disarming, because it takes, especially when you're behind a table at a convention and there's 100 other tables and you may have had some aggressive pitches and everybody's on the defensive, you have to be able to knock them down from that in a very friendly way, and then go, hey, now that I'm a person and you're a person, look at this cool thing I did.
Right.
Yeah. We had a show at the Emerald City Comic Con, and we had Tim Sale was sitting next to us, and Tim was the artist behind the Heroes TV show. He did all the art that you
That's
saw.
a big art. That's a big name.
That's a big thing. And he was from there. And when they had him there, they lined him up. His line went one direction, and then after lunch, it went right in front of our booth.
Oh,
and Dave
wow.
was like, oh, man, we're not going to sell anything. I said, nope, we've got a captive audience. They're not going anywhere. And so I started, hey, have you read this comic? Would you like to look at some of our art? And then Dave was over there sketching, and they started going, oh, do you take sketch requests? He's like, yes. So he did tons of sketches. So you got to, take those types of situations and, turn it to your benefit.
That's interesting because it is counterintuitive. Well, now, okay, if Tim Sale wasn't a comic book artist, maybe it would be a dead end there. But you guys were like chumming the waters, you could say.
Doesn't matter. It's all a matter of presentation and being present with your people.
And give them freebies.
There you go. All right, well, we're going to continue when we come back here on Geek Tank Radio.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. The Geek Patrol is back.
I like being bad. It makes me happy.
And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. And sitting in for Brandon Olmsted is Lin and Nicki Workman and our buddy Scott J. Carroll and our professional observer Alexis Carroll. His wife, so far, no objections. She hasn't thrown anything at us. We're doing okay. It's interesting because we're talking about things that go on well behind the scenes as an artist. And it's interesting because, Allan, you're a writer. Scott is an actor and a voice actor. Lin, you're an artist. I'm a woodworker. We've all been involved in the prospect of doing business from a booth. And Nicki, off the air, you made a really interesting observation about what's entailed in that, so.
Yeah, so as a product manager, which is my day job, I go to a lot of industry trade shows. The company I work for is aviation specific. So if you go to an aviation trade show, obviously there's lots of airplanes, helicopters sitting on the convention floor. But if you look at the booths in and of themselves, you won't see any type of counters, tables, things like that, unless it's a little separate room off to the side where you can finish negotiating a deal. All the folks that are working the booth, so to speak, that's what we call it, are standing up, and you might have room for a monitor stand where you can have like an iPad or a laptop where if someone wants to come up and see something, you can demo something very quickly. But the whole point is for that booth to be as open as possible to bring in as many people as possible so you can just have a conversation.
There you go. And make it attractive and inviting, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because Sal Abenanti, I've talked to him on my show before. He is Alex Ross's art dealer. He's also his Captain Marvel Shazam model as well.
Oh,
but
wow.
They started off with like these tables with all the art laying on them. Well, he's turned it into like an art gallery experience now at San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, that sort of thing. And it's, you really have to do that. And another thing, too, with a lot of artists don't think about is getting your work vertical. Everybody puts stuff horizontal on a table, and if people are walking by and you got anybody standing in front of you, more than likely they're not going to see your work. You don't have to be the wall of prints type of guy, but you definitely need to be visible, and approachable.
That's bingo. I was about to say you gotta have your work vertical. I have to be honest. My very first arts and craft shows, there was like 2 of them where most of what I had was on the table. I'm like, you're right. It looks fine in your living room, and then you get in public and nobody sees anything. Everything's got to be. My rule of thumb is I want people to be able to read my sign from 100 feet away, or something like that. So
But if they can't read it, it's got to be attractive enough to make them go, "Ooh, what's that?"
Right.
Color theory.
Yeah. Because, Scott, you were talking about how a counter, I never thought about that. You always get into the psychology of things, but the counter is a natural barrier. It might be off-putting. A table looks like a counter. So
it is.
like,
And I discovered this when I was working. I was a new restaurant trainer for a restaurant that only serves chicken fingers. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
And the good one, not that one.
Okay.
And I was the front counter trainer. I had all of the experience with various different types of customers from various different walks of life, and I would give examples and tools to people who had never really worked this before for their defensive. And so many people would come in and they immediately see a counter, and psychologically they're going, all right, this is a counter, this is a restaurant, this is a big corporate thing, it's the little guy against the big corporate thing, they're going to nickel and dime me, they're going to charge me this. And the easiest tool I gave everybody was you have to flip that from a little guy against the big corporate machine to us against them. And it's very easy to do that in that kind of setting when someone says, well, why do I have to pay extra for that? And you go, I know it's weird. They just make me do that. I can't help you out with that, but hey, I can give you this right here. And all of a sudden, you're
an advocate.
Yes, you're with them, and now it's the two of you against the machine, and that builds up customer trust and customer respect.
Yeah, another thing too is it's amazing what a smile will do. If you look like you're having a good time, then people are going to come over and have a good time with you. If you look like you're having the worst day ever, they don't want to. They'll walk away from that big black cloud over your head.
Yeah. So, Lynn, it's interesting too because you work with let's once again, because for people that just tuned in, we should say you're part of the Mid-South Cartoonists Association, which has been around since the 1980s, right?
Right, 1987.
And it's a really good group. And I would say if you're interested at all in graphic arts, I mean, especially, if you're an artist, these meetings are free. And it's a wealth of, well, for one thing, it's great networking, but it's also a great way to just build up your confidence and to get it free advice, right?
Yeah, yeah. You actually talk to other artists. That's kind of the way the whole group got together. Was there was a lot of folks like Greg Cravens that worked from home, and there's not a lot of water cooler talk, at home. So they would get
if
together.
there is, there's an issue.
If there is, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're talking to your cats or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of why they got together, was to actually talk shop.
Well, because one of the things, for example, I went to, I don't know if you remember back in 2015, the National Cartoonists Association held their annual convention here, and we had the opportunity to talk to Charles Schultz's wife, Jeannie, and I've mentioned this a million times on the show, but I was really struck by this because he worked every day, and he had to be creative every day. And I said, what happened when he had writer's block, or what happened when he couldn't come up with an idea? And she said he had a very workmanlike attitude. He would sit down and he would just doodle. He would make himself draw, and usually that sparked creativity. Then it gave him ideas, but he didn't just walk around and say, well, woe is me, I don't have any, But he had nuts and bolts, practical ways to deal with writer's block and to deal with his problem. And when you go to the Cartoonists Associated meeting, you can get all of those kinds of tips.
Sure.
Things,
yeah. We kind of have a rule at the meetings. It's like if somebody comes up with an idea, if you don't use it, it's up for grabs, man.
There you go. Yeah. So tell us once again before we go to break how people can check it out. And it's for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
All ages.
You can go to midsouthcartoonists.org or .com. Our website goes both ways, and it's easy to find, and we're on Facebook.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. And all right. So we're going to continue visiting when we come back here on Geek Tank Radio.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. The Geek Patrol is back.
Oh, they're hopeless. A disgrace to the forces of evil.
And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. And sitting in for Brandon Olmsted today is our friends Scott J. Carroll here with his wife Alexis, and Lin Workman and Nicki Workman, his wife. And it's interesting, we're talking about art. Well, we're talking a lot about art because all of us have shared in the experience of being artists on display, you could say, in terms of having to sell our art publicly. But I was just thinking, I was listening to you guys off the air, and Allan, you remember this, 10 years ago, we had that really great opportunity to, the National Cartoonists Association came in, and they did their convention, and we got a little bit of access. I got to meet Jeff Smith. I got to meet a lot of these guys. But what I noticed, and I'm noticing it here in our conversation today, is how, these guys are all friends, and they're all building each other up, and it's not this ugly, competitive environment. I'm amazed. And these are artists at the height of their success, and it just strikes me how collaborative and how nice. You've probably sat next to artists that you're like, wow, this is a nice person. And
it's great to have a nice booth neighbor.
Yeah.
We've had some not so nice, but the majority of the time, probably 99.9% of the time, I've had great booth neighbors. And some of them are just guys starting off like me, and some of them are legends in the field,
Yeah, and I think too, you probably see this in writing, Allan. Maybe when you're starting off in something, you think you're the only person in the world that has this problem, or you're the only person that gets this issue, or that. And when you find out other people are dealing with it, for one thing, it's kind of empowering, I think, but it's also encouraging, and maybe that's where you develop.
To agree with Nikki, of when you cross the line, there is a line out there where it's kind of like, well, this is a lot of fun. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's walking the dog. It doesn't matter if it's growing stuff. It doesn't matter if it's as we'll say, creating content of some kind. There is a line out there between, woo, I'm just having fun, I don't care. And then there's that line where it's like, and somebody bought this from me. Wow, I could make money doing this. Mm-hmm. And I'll pick on a dear friend of mine named Deb, who does paint parties. And she has been an activity director 40 years of her life. She will die an activity director. However, she does paint parties. She does 10 people at a time. She pre-draws and it is work. And and I love getting the phone call. What are you doing? Drawing this frog for the 12th time. All right, drawing this frog for the 12th time.
Yeah.
And it is just, the grind, but the grind is enjoyable. If you find the balance between being creative and being productive, as where people get lost is the fun goes out of being productive. And that's when people leave the business. That's when people quit doing stuff. You've got to be productive. You got to meet deadlines. You've got to be all of these wonderful business things, but that doesn't mean you're not having fun doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm doing all of the voice acting jobs currently from home. So I've got took my closet and put up moving blankets, sound dampened it, and that's my studio right now. And it is miserable in there. It gets so hot so fast, and I'm just putting all this hot air out into a microphone. And by the time I leave that closet, I am exhausted and miserable, but I have had the most fun I've had in so long. And then when I go to edit that audio and sit down, I go, oh, I like that one. Who read that one? Oh, that was me.
Yeah.
But you're smart, too. You're keeping your overhead low, because nothing's more stressful than running into debt or losing money. So.
Well, and like Allan was talking about deadlines. Yeah, it's something you've got to learn as an artist. And I did, doing T-shirt designs and that sort of thing with the shop. We had to it had to be done by a certain date. And when I first started doing sketch cards for like tops, a buddy of mine was trying to get me hooked up there, and they wouldn't return my emails. I'd send them samples, I'd hear nothing. He goes, oh man, they're really wanting people that can hit deadlines and can use markers, can do color. And I was like, all right. So in the subject line, I put, have markers, can hit deadlines. I got an immediate response back.
There you go.
Well, people in the business understand your reference there, right?
Exactly.
That made perfect sense to them. So, well, you guys, I would encourage, if you're out there listening, and maybe you're an artist, or maybe you're just interested in the arts, if I may turn this back to a shameless plug, you guys are all going to be at the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention November 1st. In fact, the Mid-South Cartoonists Association. I have a booth reserved, Lynn.
Thank you.
You guys will be manning, and you have pretty cool swag, right?
We have a lot of swag. Yeah, like we do like stickers and stuff like that. But we also do zines, and we'll do some sketches for you if you like.
I wonder if they have any artists.
Yeah, plinty of artists there.
Define artist, but
yeah, and I would even say, if you're an artist, bring your sketchbook and show. It's, I mean, you can't spend all day, but you could look over their work and give them your thoughts.
Yeah, we're looking at doing a portfolio review coming up.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So, and Scott, now you and Allan will be set up in the in the dark oak booth. Well, is it these days? Allan, you've gotten your hands even into coffee making and things, but what's your booth going to look like? So
it's going to be different this year.
Okay.
Yeah, we got some things planned. We have some surprises in store. And then there's just the general, I'll be walking around making jokes
and recording it all. So if you see Scott J. Carroll, assume you're going to wind up on video. But it's going to be a lot of fun, you guys. I'm really, really excited that we're back at the Memphis Hilton. It's beautiful over there. It's spacious. It's been remodeled. It's very nostalgic for a lot of us because we were there, for 5 years, and it's our favorite venue by far. So we're really excited about being there, and we'll have more news in the weeks ahead about what you can expect as far as programming, but it's going to be very different and it's going to be action-packed. So
right around the corner from you.
Yeah, so go to memphiscfc.com to learn more, or go to the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention Facebook page. Well, you guys, we got to get out of here. We've covered a lot, but the clock waits for no one. So until next week, we are the Geek Patrol, and I am Joe Thorderson.
Nicki Workman.
I'm Lin Workman.
I'm Scott J. Carroll.
I'm Maximilian.
And I'm Allan Gilbreth, reminding you, think of everything you can get done when we have all been drawn together.
Oh, brother.